listening to the best of the Martha Zoller Show. To hear the full show each day, tune in to AM 550 and FM 102.9 WDUN or log in to accesswdun.com and click the Listen Live button from 9 to 11 Monday through Friday. Will Daughtry's here with me today, but also Greg Poole's joining us. And Greg is a county commissioner. We're going to talk a little bit about the ICE Detention Center, the ins and outs on that. We're also going to talk about his campaign for Congress. Greg, welcome to the program.
Good to be here.
So there's a lot of misinformation, I think, out there related to what the county commission is doing and then where the ICE Detention Center is. And I know they've tabled it and all of that kind of stuff, but I wanted you to come on to kind of explain the process so that people knew how they could be involved.
There's a whole lot of questions, and I've fielded more emails on this issue, and I actually agree. I don't want the detention center here, and I'm on record saying that, and I don't care if it costs me votes or not. The number one reason as a Hall Countyan, as a county commissioner, that I find it infuriating to have this in Hall County is it is going to cost Hall County taxpayers money to keep this thing running. I find it very infuriating that our representatives have not contacted us and said, hey, this is coming down the pike. You better
Your federal representatives did not contact you. Okay.
We have had no communication saying how are we going to treat this. The sewer capacity in Oakwood is currently, I don't think they can handle it. So from rumblings I've been hearing around town, you know how Gainesville is, we're going to truck this stuff to another sewer plant and pump it, which is an added cost.
Now, they can't put the detention center here without the approval of the county commission, though, correct?
Yes.
They can or cannot?
They can.
They can.
Yes. And one of the troubling facts I heard, now I don't know if this is verified, so this may be misinformation, just telling you we don't know. But one of the things that was very troubling, these facilities that are being sold are selling for 5-time booking value. So one of the things, and these people that I was talking to was asking, who owns these, and are they people that were big donors and things like that? These are questions that I don't think is conspiratorial at all. I think these are common sense questions that people want to know. And I know people will say, well, you don't back Trump. I voted for him 3 times. I think we won all 3 times. So you're not talking to somebody that didn't vote for him. It's actually the first time I've ever voted in 2016. I voted for him. He made me go vote, so did Brian Kemp. So you're looking at somebody that went to vote. But as a Hall County commissioner, I find it very troubling to know that we have not had sit-downs to figure out how we're going to treat this. Number one, the tax impact. We've taken it now off the tax digest. It's now a non-taxable entity. So now we're not getting the revenue, the schools or whatnot. Now we're going to have to treat that sewer, and that eats up our sewer capacity. And it costs money to do this. Then we just don't know a lot of ins and outs about it. Security, securing this, where it is, it's right on the road. I mean, it don't make sense to me.
So what is the status right now?
I don't know, because we hadn't talked to him.
Yeah.
I mean, that should be troubling.
Do you know what? And here's a question I have. Why would you... Okay, America is a huge place. There's lots of places that are out in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
Okay? I don't understand why you wouldn't put a facility like this. I mean, that's generally where they build prisons, is kind of out in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
I've been to the one in South Georgia. There's nothing around it, okay? Why wouldn't you build these kind of facilities where there's not anybody around?
Why would you not take the limited inmates? I heard somebody talking about this the other day at Long Street Cafe. Shout out to Tim Bunch. Free advertisement.
Yeah.
And they said, why don't y'all take those women prisoners out of Alto and move them up there, since it's a maximum security? Because I don't know how many. He said, have you checked and seen how much space is available there? I said, no. I said, because I'm not.
It's a good idea, though.
I'm not the one to talk about it,
Yeah.
but it is a good idea. How come we should not look at moving them to this area or a safer area? There's so much could be done, but when you do that, you take real estate agents out of it, you take speculation out of it, you take property owners out of it, and honestly, we're driven by that market. It's a shame. As a Hall County Commissioner, I just found, this is not the first time, it's the second time. When our parks shut down Friday before Memorial Day, we didn't know our parks were shutting down till Friday before Memorial Day. And that's a big day for people to go boating, and they're going to shut down our parks. Nobody called us. Nobody give us a heads up. Nobody. And as an elected official, you would think they would call the seat of the 9th District and say, hey, just going to give you a heads up. And when we went to Washington, D.C., now my wife was in the room last night, my son, and I got kind of jumped on by our current guy saying, hey, he didn't like what I'm saying. But I can tell you, and I'm a lot of things, but a liar is not one of them. I've never been accused of being a liar except by our Hall County government and maybe this. Those are the only two people that accused me of being a liar. Even my mom and dad did, because they knew better. But I will tell you this, when we went to Washington, D.C., they said, you better make sure you get with Mike Collins. He's a jackhammer. He's on top of this. Now, that was Dave Wills, and if you want to talk about one of the finest human beings I've ever met in my life, Dave Wills is awesome. He's the head of ACCG, and he is the one that said, hey, I can't believe you're here. It's providential. It's like the Lord sent you our way. I can't believe you're here asking this. We just left the meeting. He started screaming across the room, went and got somebody, said, you know what he's asking about? He's asking about the parks. He said, we just met with the DOD. We've met with the administration. They said, you need to get with Mike Collins. They said, he's all over this. I met with their administration when we had the ACC, or Georgia Day at the Eisenhower Room, and they said, he's right. You need to get with Mike Collins.
So do you think, and Will, if you've got a question, let me know, but do you think that our congressman knew that this was going to be proposed and didn't tell us, or did he not know either?
Per his words last night, he didn't know. And I said, and that's a big problem in itself right there, that you don't know, and he did know. Or somebody knew. That's a problem. And one of the reasons that I would think that government officials or bureaucrats, as we call them, would not inform is because they just look over you. And I'll promise you this, I'm not somebody they're ever going to look over because they know I'm going to come at them. When you are strong and firm and you got a foundation, you're not somebody that's overlooked. You're somebody that they always look in the room and say, hey, let's figure out where that knucklehead's at because he'll call us out. You're looking at somebody that's brought $10 to $15 million to road improvements in Hall County. I actually believe I brought more money in 3 years as a Hall County Commissioner to our roads and infrastructure than he's brought. I actually think I brought more money than anybody.
When you say he, you mean Andrew Clyde.
I'm not calling names.
Yeah, but I mean, that's who you're talking about when you say he.
Anybody.
Current congressman.
Pick a name.
Okay.
I'm good with that. Pick a name. I'm not giving him any mic time, so what I'm saying is I am a proven entity about going in a room and disrupting it and saying, hey, we want our money. Hall County signed an IGA with Inland Port for $4.5 million. And when I found that out in my first month, I said, for the love of God, do not sign that IGA. They said, well, what if they don't give us nothing? I said, good question. I said, blame me. I said, at least let me take the blame. You know what those roads cost Hall County? You know what that project cost Hall County? Between $23 and $25 million, and we signed an IGA for $4.5 million. Thanks to efforts led by people such as me, a wonderful senator in Drew Eccles, we have brought $15 million more into the pot for these roads. These are things that are not conjecture, something that people could argue about. These are things that we can lay our hands on and show you the facts, the data on this. These are things. We need real leadership. And sometimes leadership does look disruptive. Sometimes it is out of the norm. And somebody said, they told me last night, they said, you did a good job, surprisingly. I said, what the heck does that mean?
So, Will,
I was going to say, I have to go back to the Oakwood ICE detention facility. I have a quick question. When that whole thing was getting announced, us in the newsroom, we probably did the same thing that you guys were doing. We were scrambling to try to find any bits of information about it. And one thing that we did, as well as you guys probably did, was reach out to Rep. Andrew Clyde. And one thing that he claimed to us was that the tax would actually be a net positive in tax revenue due to job creation. I wanted to give you a chance to sort of, do you think that that's true? And, yeah.
Look at me. Do I think it's true? Mm-hmm. I want to, this is what I asked last night. What is a good job? If you cannot afford a starter home in the 9th District, I want to ask, what is a good job? I honestly believe it's not so much the jobs we're creating as it is that we have let the market get out of control with everything, infrastructure, the overburdens, the regulation, the regulatory process. Our kids can't afford a home. We're shoving them into apartments right here in Hall County where we're abating the taxes on the apartments. These properties are booking for $80 million, and we've abated the taxes on them. So you want to know why there's no asphalt on the ground? Because they ain't getting no taxes on it. You want to know why they only got binder base down? I know what I'm talking about this. This is real things that we have structurally got to look at. We are a great area in the 9th District. I honestly believe that we are one of the most fortunate places in the world because of past and present leadership. We have had some of the best CEOs in the history of Georgia right here in the 9th District. John Ferguson, Carol Burrell. You talking about trendsetters. We're talking about people that move the needle. We're talking about people that the rest of the market looks at. Matt Hamby that's there now, I talked with him once, and I'm telling you, when I left meeting with him, I felt like I was in the presence of a genius. This guy is going to transform. He's even talking about the healthcare industry, how that we're going to have to look at it. He was talking about how they used to go out in vans and trucks and meet people and do things. He's worried about the climate of how they're taking money from this. We have real issues. They asked last night, how would I fix the insurance? Why would you ask a construction guy that? Honestly, the best answer I could say is, let's get Matt Hamby in there.
Hanley.
What I said wrong? Forgive me. I know two of them.
Yeah.
And when you think about getting Emory in there, getting Piedmont in there, bring them to the table, and let's get the smartest people we know in there. It's a huge deal. My phone's on. I apologize.
Don't look at your phone while you're on there. Anyway, listen. So
she's all over me, y'all.
That's right. So you are running for Congress, and you're going to be leaving your job, I guess. Will you stay in your job at the county commission if you don't win? I know you're planning on winning, but how does that work? You don't have to retire, right?
Retire? I'm 57. I can't retire.
You can't retire.
I'm a baby.
So if people want to help you in your congressional campaign, how can they do that?
Vote for me. We're asking people to pull that lever, push that button, mash that pen, do whatever you can. We're asking for votes. Somebody asked me yesterday, I won't tell you who, said, hey, we want to write you a check. I said, I don't want your money. I want your vote. And I've been telling everybody that, and I want to say this on the air. We're good. The Lord's been good to me. I will tell you this, I feel like momentum we're rolling. I feel like it is something that is unseen. I remember in 2016, they said Donald Trump ain't going to win nothing. Donald Trump ain't going to win nothing. Donald Trump. Right now, they're saying that Greg Poole, he ain't going to win nothing. I'm telling you, they're too embarrassed, some of them, to admit they're going to vote for me. But I am the 9th District. When you think of the 9th District, you think of somebody like me. I am a good businessman. We started the GME mental health program at the hospital. I am a philanthropist, more than most people would say. How is that redneck a philanthropist? I'm telling you right now, we are a real candidate. We are the one that they're afraid of. I will tell you last night, after we got done, the current congressman came to me, and he was highly offended at something I said. And my wife said, why is he jumping all over you? I said, because he knows I'm nipping at his heels. I believe he knows I am the threat. I believe he knows I am the one that is going to be in the runoff. I believe you're looking at the winner. I'm more afraid of winning than I am losing. Losing don't bother me. If I lose, I'm going to Gillsville. I'm going to be a pop. I got a new grandbaby. I'm going to love her. I'm going to throw her in her swimming pool, and we're going to have just a great time. Winning means I'm going to have to change my life, and I'm going to have to go up there and be exactly what I've proven myself to be in Hall County. I'm going to stand for the rule of law. I'm going to stand for the Constitution. I'm going to stand on our Bible Belt principles. We have lost our way in the 9th District. We have lost our core values. This has got to start at home. It's okay to say we need a revival in Congress. I'm telling you, we need a revival in the 9th District.
It's where North Georgia comes to talk. It's the Martha Zoller Show on AM 550 and FM 102.9 WDUN.
Steve Moore's joining us right now. He's one of the best economists in the country. And we saw this little thing happen this morning, Steve, where the markets were all trending at minus 2%. Then the president announced that there's been some movement in some talks with Iran and that he gave 5 more days before we started going after infrastructure. And immediately the markets turned around.
Yeah, so boy, there's a lot going on, Martha. Happy Monday. So first of all, let me say something about the TSA situation, if I may, because
sure.
I travel a lot, and I've got a couple of things I got to say about this. Number one, the airports that I've been to, for example, I was in West Palm Beach this week, for an event at Mar-a-Lago, and I've been to Dallas and some of the other airports, and I have not experienced, thank God, any of the long lines. And one of the things I've said when I go through the TSA lines, I talk to the TSA employees. I thank them. We should all thank the ones who are showing up.
I do that
and
too.
I say thank you, because I asked them, "Are you getting paid?" They said no, and they're the heroes of this story, right? And they're working without a paycheck. And look, I oftentimes malign something the government employees don't work very hard, but these people are real heroes. So that's point number one. Point number two, we have many airports in the United States today that use private TSA, screeners.
Yeah.
And those airports that use private screeners are doing just fine. So why don't we just privatize the TSA? It would be much, much more efficient. Why do they have to be government employees?
I agree.
It's just, so that's point number two. Point number three, I love what Elon Musk is talking about and saying, hey, I'll pay these people. I mean, that would be, this guy is, to the rescue again. So, but we got, point number four, maybe the most important point. And I think I said this last week, so I apologize if I'm repeating myself. This is what Chuck Schumer wanted. He wants the chaos. He wants the crisis. That's what Democrats are doing in Congress today. They are trying to create upheavals, trauma for people. They don't care. They will do anything to try to embarrass Donald Trump and to create as much chaos as they possibly can.
Well, they did some interviews in the lines last night at Atlanta Airport, and they said, well, what do you think?
By the way, Atlanta is one of the biggest problem airport.
Yeah,
right?
Well, because it's the busiest airport in the country.
Yeah,
and
right.
So,
exactly.
So,
yep.
Atlanta and O'Hare go back and forth depending on the time of the day, being the busiest airport in the world. And so, but they asked a bunch of the people in line, hey, what do you think about ICE coming? And they said, no, if it's going to help, we want them to come. Every single person, black, white, brown.
Yes.
And this morning, since 3 a.m., the lines have been outside, but I just saw an update where they said the lines are more organized, the ICE agents have shown up, and that they're walking through the lines, helping people by giving them water and things like that, and communicating with them to tell them what to expect.
Yes. So, why shouldn't we use the ICE agents for that? I mean, but again, this goes back to Chuck Schumer and the Democrats. And by the way, I'm not a rah-rah Republican. I'm not here to tell you Republicans are the solution to all our problems. But the Democrats they're going to continue to do this for the next 3 years that Donald Trump is president. Create chaos and mayhem. They don't care if it causes incredible crisis for the American people because everything is politics to them. Politics matters more to them than the country. I'm not talking about Democratic voters. I'm talking about the Democrats in Washington who are so cynical. All they have to do is approve this funding. But they won't do it because, because they just hate Trump.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, they just interviewed a woman in the Atlanta airport and asked her what she thought about ICE agents being there. And she said, I'm glad to see them here. Congress needs to get to work, get it done. The American people don't deserve this. TSA agents need to get paid. This is ridiculous. That's from just a random person that they got online. And
that's what I think most people feel that way, that it's an unforced error. It's causing all kinds of mayhem for people. People are missing their flights. It's costing the economy billions and billions of dollars, all to score political points. And by the way, this is all entangled in the fact that the Democrats don't want to have voter ID for voting. These are the same people who talk about, dangerous to democracy, and they want illegal voters voting because that's part of their base. I mean, frankly. So that's the point on that. Now, you asked me about the situation with respect to the oil markets, and you're right. What happened this morning, Martha, was that the oil price, the futures price, went from 105 or something like that down to about 90. The last time I checked, these numbers change every half hour, but the last time I checked, the future price was about $88 a barrel, and so that's a big decline. And by the way, the price was $60 before we went into Iran in the first place. So anytime you can see that price come down, that's a very good thing for the economy. The prices will come down. It's just a question of when we can get the straits open in the Middle East so the oil can pull through, because I want to reinforce this point that there's no shortage of oil or gas in the world. In fact, the world is awash in oil and gas. We've been producing more oil and gas under Trump than any president in modern times. It's just this disruption in the supply in the Middle East. So once we get that disruption fixed, we're going to be back. The economy will be humming again. But we're facing some tough sledding for the next month or two.
Hey, Steve, this is Joni, and I have a question for you.
Yeah.
I see the prices of oil have gone down, which is great news.
Yep.
How long will it take to trickle down? And
Right.
why does it
To the
take
gas
long
pump.
to the gas pump?
Yeah. Yeah.
And why does it take longer to go down than go up?
Well, that's a great question. Well, I think, first of all, people need to realize that, when the oil price is the price of the oil that's drilled from the wells, right? But then it has to go through pipelines, it has to go through refineries, it has to be transported to the gas stations and so on. And that process can take a matter of days. The oil price may come down. It may be actually feel less pain at the pump.
Putting the talk in news talk. It's the Martha Zoller Show on AM 550 and FM 102.9 WDUN.
Right now, Ally Tiola, who's the RNC Election Integrity Communications Director, is joining us to talk about the SAVE Act. And Ally, I am so happy to have you here because I'm a little confused about the SAVE Act, and I want to make sure I'm clear about what it does and what it doesn't do. So welcome to the program.
Hey, good morning. Thank you so much for having me. The Save America Act is truly common sense, and I think that's why it's confusing to Americans, because more than 80% of voters want voter ID, and I think they don't understand why Democrats keep holding this up. None of us, quite frankly, understand that, other than the only logical explanation could be, I guess, Democrats want to cheat in elections. But the Save America Act does three key things. It requires proof of citizenship to vote. You have to show your ID to vote. And, of course, ask states to maintain accurate voter rolls, remove non-citizens from voter rolls in accordance with the law. So that is what it does, and this is an extremely important bill, and we need to get it passed as soon as possible.
It's my biggest concern about any kind of election laws coming from the federal level, okay? And I'm a conservative Republican. I have been involved in the movement for, as long as I can remember. But one of the great things about our Constitution is local control of elections. And the reason why we've had, 5 elections in our history that have been troublesome, 1896, 1920, 1960, 2000, and 2020, is because there were things, the rules that were not played by during those period of times. And you can look back at it and follow those elections. I do a lot of research on this stuff. So my biggest concern, and you've allayed it, that it's just these two simple areas, because you don't want to lose that local control of elections, because that's one of the things that really protects our elections, is the fact that it's not one body that's controlling it.
Well, that audio that you just played, that was from our landmark court case yesterday, Watson versus RNC. This is something that the RNC has been fighting for and really speaks to the heart of your question, which is that Congress, it's in the law, sets one election day, and that takes precedence over everything else. So when you see states across the nation, there are more than 14 states that do this, that count mail-in ballots that are received after election day. That compromises the exact sentiment you were talking about, that voters feel like elections are trustworthy, secure, fair, counted on time. So this is very, very important that we ensure that Election Day means exactly what it says Election Day. Now, as far as the Save America Act, this would be requiring voter ID and proof of citizenship for federal elections. So voting for your congressman, your senator, and of course, president. That is what this would do, and that is why it is so important, because you mentioned those elections where it was close or there was discrepancies. And in America, we really need to make sure that our elections are conducted accurately and securely, and that every voter feels confidence in those results.
So, in Georgia, for example, we have a primary on May the 19th, okay? The last day to register to vote for that primary is April the 20th. And that includes some federal elections in there. Are you concerned at all, because this is one of the things that people bring up about changing election laws in an election year, are you concerned at all about that the process for this election year has already started and that anything that would be passed might create confusion?
Absolutely not, because if you're already registered to vote, you'll carry forward and do as you've always done. This is for moving forward. This would set a new precedent. So when you're registering to vote, you have to show your proof of citizenship. You have to show an ID at the polling station, at the ballot box. And I think also it is very hypocritical that Democrats continue this trope that Americans basically are too stupid to get an ID. That is not the case. We all have to have an ID to function in society, whether that's boarding a plane, driving a car, renting a car, buying alcohol at the grocery store. You have to show your ID. So I think it's preposterous to insinuate this would disenfranchise people.
Well, and in fact, Georgia was a leader in this. We started with voter ID in 1999, and then we codified it in 2006 to where it's limited types of ID. It's a Georgia driver's license. It's a government ID. There's like 3 or 4 different picture IDs that are federal or state picture IDs that you can use. We also provided a van that went around. If you couldn't get to some place to get an ID, we sent somebody to your house to give you an ID. And we've done that, and they have not been able to produce, Democrats have not been able to produce one single person that was denied the right to vote since 2006. And we've updated the laws a couple of times since then, too, including in 2022. So they have not been able to produce a single person with a name that has been denied the right to vote in Georgia. And in fact, our turnout numbers have been, off the charts. So we've got 2 Democrat senators right now, Ally, and they're going to vote against it. But we are trying to flood the phones and get them to change their mind.
Yeah, in states like Georgia, states like Florida, you are the gold standard. And I think people in your state would maybe be shocked to know there are so many that don't operate with the same level of security. And that is why we are trying to set this federal framework. And you spoke to the heart of why this matters. The reason why your voter turnout has skyrocketed since you've passed these laws in your state is because people trust your election process.
That's right.
They trust it and they want to vote. I was born and raised in California, and as a Republican, I did not feel excited about going to my polling place in California because I knew it was a mess. I always voted, but I didn't always trust what was happening on the other side of my ballot. And so that is why we need to ramp up these rules so that people all across our nation feel excited and trust this process, because this is the cornerstone of our democracy.
Absolutely. Ally Tiola, if people want to know more, how can they get information?
They can go to GOP.com. We have a list of all of the cases that we're working on, even a few big wins that took place in Georgia. If people want to know specifically about elections, go to ProtectTheVote.com.
Absolutely. Ally, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you so much.
To hear the full versions of last week's Martha Zoller shows, go to the podcast page at accesswdun.com, and you can follow me on social media at Martha Zoller.